Hi and welcome to the latest in our sessions talking about all things data. My name is Gary Clark. I'm the Consulting Director for Data Services at 3C Consultants. And for the next 10-15 minutes, we're going to be looking at the wonderful world of data subject access requests. Now, I know this is something that I think most organisations that we're talking to in the housing sector, in any event, are dealing with at the moment. But some organisations are seeing quite an increase in subject access requests. Although it's been available for people to ask for their data for a number of years now, in 2018, there was some upgrading to that when the GDPR come in. We've got 10 fewer days to provide it now, and we're not able to charge in the way that we're able to before. So in essence, people can ask for it, and in the majority of cases, it's free. So what are they entitled to? Well, they're entitled to know that we're processing their data, but more importantly, they're entitled to a copy of all of that personal data, which is, can be quite an undertaking depending on who's asking for it and how your systems are set up and how your data is managed. There's also quite a long list of supplementary information that individuals can ask for too. I was struck by a piece of research I was reading last week conducted by a company called Garden, who went out and asked 100 data protection officers and a series of questions, and this was conducted, I think, over late April, early May, over the course of a week. And a couple of the findings from that piece of research was showing that the average cost of servicing a subject access request was about £4,900, and it took on average about 66 hours to do it. And I don't think that is kind of too far off what we're hearing from our clients, certainly in the housing sector. One of the other things coming out of that research, which was interesting, I think, is that they were bracing themselves for quite a large increase of subject access requests, primarily down to the fact that their organisation, or some of their organisations, were, as a result of COVID-19, looking for ways to save money and restructure and be more efficient in order to be more financially robust. And unfortunately, that meant losing staff, or certainly starting rounds of redundancies. And often with those sorts of activities, it causes a bit of conflict. And of course, staff have equal rights to ask for data about themselves. This is not just customers. So they're expecting an increase as a result of that. But I think in housing and many other organisations, not just housing, but we can talk about housing because that's primarily the kind of sector that we operate in. But I guess it applies to the wider charitable and not-for-profit sector too. I think there are some challenges in turning these subject access requests around quicker than we currently are able to do. I think the complex system architecture that is often found, and which has been built up over many years, can present a bit of a challenge to get into the data quickly enough. And of course, other challenges are that you need very specific skills, knowledge and experience and access to be able to search all sorts of other places for the data where we know it's likely to exist. But of course, in anyone's organisation, a lot of the data exists outside of what we call structured databases in more kind of unstructured areas, and that will include kind of emails, shared directories, kind of electronic document management system, repositories, and all of those such areas. They're quite difficult to interrogate, and that can really take a lot of time. So what does the future look like? Are we going to be experiencing a decrease in subject access requests? It'll be about the same, do we think, or do we think there's going to be some increases in it? Well, the ICO haven't really been focusing too much on the subject access request bit of what they do, because as we've seen in the media, they've been issuing huge fines for other data breaches to the likes of British Airways, and Google got lumbered with quite a huge, I think the largest fine to date, somewhere in the region of about 50 million euros. But as I mentioned earlier, I think with the unemployment rising and fewer jobs coming through, I think there's going to be more employee-employer conflict, and therefore there's going to be a higher likelihood of employees that have been made redundant or in conflict, seeking more information to kind of use if they have a case against their employer. What we're also seeing, of course, is people using the subject access request process to further their cause if they have a complaint. If they're getting nowhere with an organisation, or there's a lack of response, or they're just not satisfied with what they're being told or what they're receiving, bang, in goes a subject access request. Now, I think what we have to all bear in mind is that can take an individual 5 seconds to pop an email in. It doesn't have to go to anywhere specifically, and in fact, I think you could verbally request one as well, and all that takes literally seconds, but it bungs you up for a couple of weeks in order to service that request. And that's all costs. There's no money coming back for that. There's no return on investment there. That's all pure cost. So human beings, intelligent emotional human beings are expensive, as they should be, but some of this process is perhaps slightly more mechanical than it is emotional. So to that extent, really, there ought to be a way of automating searches, not just in structured databases, as I said earlier on, but also across all the other dark areas of data that is perhaps more unstructured. And at this point, I'd like to hand over to Mark Hobart, who's our partner. They provide some automation services to our services that we offer, the housing sector and other not-for-profit organisations, who's going to kind of demonstrate to you how this actually could be done by using the power of Infoboss. I'll hand over to you now, Mark. Off you go.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, my name is Mark Hobart from Infoboss. We're a software and services company based in the UK, and we specialise in automating the management and processing of data. And in today's session, I'm going to be talking to you about how you can use the Infoboss platform to help you comply with the process of servicing data subject access requests. Last year, we conducted some research on the subject of data subject access requests. We collated the research findings of our own research and combined with others like IDC and Parsec. And this research discovered that 71% of organisations have seen an increase since May 2018 in data subject access requests. We've also seen that the average amount of time spent per annum is 709.5 days, with an average time per subject access request of 12.9 days, roughly 2 a month, or a full-time person. Now, 87% of organisations from our research and others have indicated that it's a challenge complying with these subject access requests. So we probed as to why that might be the case. And the number one reason that was offered is that finding and collating information is the most difficult, and that was quickly followed by redaction and administration of the process. So digging deeper, we discovered that 80% of data is unstructured. That's documents, PDFs, emails, spreadsheets, the most difficult type of data to interrogate. Many organizations have tried to use manual or semi-automated search techniques, but have found the process difficult and unreliable, and there's a growing sense of unease that data is being missed that should be included in order to satisfy requests. So let's consider what a typical social landlord's data estate might look like. It will contain data from a variety of application databases, if you like, structured data sources, containing information about people, properties, assets relating to people. It is relatively easy to find data in these systems, albeit the more of them you have, the more difficult and time-consuming it can be to find the data of interest. Unstructured data sources, on the other hand, are a very different story. This is data that is generally not very well classified, if at all, and has historically been neglected, with new inputs like IoT devices potentially exponentially growing, making it even more of a challenge. And this is where Infoboss can help. We automate the collection, classification, and organization of your data from any digital data source into a single searchable repository, enabling you to quickly and easily find the data associated with the data subject and collate it into a pack of information for subsequent redaction and distribution. Let's take a look at a demonstration system. I'm logged in to a demonstration environment which contains some sample data. And what we have is a collection of data associated with customers, some from an email account, perhaps a customer services email account that's used for engagement with clients. And I've got a document store which contains some 3,500 documents. Now, I've been asked to provide a collection of information for Mr. Barry Weekly. So I'm going to start by just looking for the name Weekly. And you can see that we've found straight away 2 emails, 29 documents, and 29 customer records associated with the name Weekly. So let's go and have a look at the customers. Now, it was Mr. Barry Weekly I was interested in. So we've got B Weekly here, so I can just filter that down, and we can see that we've just got a Mrs. B Weekly and a Mr. B Weekly. So I'm going to go for Mr. B Weekly and just get down to that single record there. Now, from my emails point of view, I'll just go and take a look and see what we've got on emails, and there's a couple of emails there related to Weekly, so we'll keep those. And also in the document store, there's a lot of documents here. You can see we've identified the name Weekly in quite a few, so we'll want to take a look at all of those as well. So now, having identified that that's the data set I'm interested in, I can go away and export that. Now, I've previously saved this as a query, but I'll call it Mr. Barry Weekly. And we'll pick the query that I've saved. There it is, Mr. B Weekly SAR. We won't anonymize the data in this case, and we'll take all of the attachments to be included. So I'll just save that. And that's going off and running now. So let's just check where we've got to, and you can see it's currently running that process. So and you can see it's now completed. And this little paperclip on the left, if I just click on that, it'll download a zip file. If I just open that zip file up, and there it is, and it's got the 29 letters, the 2 emails, and a snapshot of the data associated with Mr. Barry Weekly. And that's how, using Infoboss, you can collate the data from a variety of different data sources and provide an interface which enables you to search, find, collate the information that you need to service a subject access request. Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Mark. That was fantastic. All of that in a few minutes, incredible. I think, if you add up the amount of person hours that you're throwing at kind of, I suppose, mechanical processes around kind of searching and collating, certainly a tool like this is really powerful and should save many hours across the year. If you want to find out a little bit more, please do get in touch with me, and we'll be more than happy, myself and Mark, to run a very short demonstration, answer your questions for you. But look, as we've learned today, I think the subject access requests are probably likely to increase, certainly in the short to medium term, I would imagine. That's if you're not seeing an increase now. I'm certainly hearing from clients that they are increasing. And with what's happening on the jobs front, and people kind of understand a little bit more now about subject access requests, and in some cases being encouraged to put one in as part of a complaint or a disrepair claim. In some cases, you'll see that that's going to tie up a lot of the organisation's resource for a long time. So if there's a more effective way of collating this information, that's certainly one way that we've shown you today. But please do get in touch. Thank you very much for sparing the time to watch. Please do ask any questions that you've got, and we'll certainly come back to you on that. And look out for the next in the series of videos on our data services. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.